The 49ers righted the ship at 2-2, but what carries over from New England against the Cardinals this week? Plus, insight on the Christian McCaffrey injury from his own father, and we'll even get to what socks Brandon Aiyuk is going to have on in practice. All that and more coming up with Stats and Cone on today's podcast, sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Stats and Cone. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. He is Grant Cone. Grant, you are at Levi Stadium. There are no lights on. Did you sneak in? Did you break in? What's going on?
Please don't tell anyone that I'm here. They'll take my credential. I had to talk to a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. No, it seems like it's okay for me to stream here early in the morning before things are happening. But if God forbid, like Matt Mayoko needed to stream over there, like it would be not okay. So I get in where I can.
I see. There's a hierarchy of 49ers podcasters now.
Right, because Matty is partners with the 49ers, NBC Sports Bay Area. They're partners. So he gets preferential treatment. I'm not Kyle Shanahan's favorite, so I'm kind of down here, but they still have to give me some space here and there.
Not his favorite. That is, I think, putting it kindly.
Well, I don't know for sure, but I think that's a fair assumption.
Honestly, I don't know if he has any favorite beat writers. Kyle's disdain for the media is, let's just say it's well known. First super chat of the day, bright and early. Thank you, Zach Rivero says, any chance of getting Devontae Adams? No. Next question.
So. I don't think so. No.
It would
have been fun if they'd made that trade for Devontae Adams before the season started. Traded Aiyuk for him a month or two ago. That would have been a lot of fun.
Right. That was something that could have happened, but no, not now, unfortunately. It's fun to dream, but I don't think the 49ers need him, quite frankly. Because
I thought it was funny. It was floated during the offseason, and people were like, well, the Raiders don't want to trade him. The Raiders are all in. The Raiders want to compete. Like, okay, like, sure, I'm sure they do. But like, what about by October 2nd when Devontae Adams requests a trade? Like, what world are they living in?
Last week, he was on with Kay Adams talking about how much he loved the Raiders and, he's tired of all the trade talk. It's like 1 week later, he's requesting a trade out. That's why, again, like you can't just take what coaches and players say as gospel and just, wash your hands and say, well, that settles it. It doesn't settle it.
Not at all. Not at all. But yeah, it would be fun. But if you think about it, with the emergence of Jawan Jennings, they don't really need another wide receiver right now. They need other things more than that. They could use a defensive tackle.
Right.
Linebacker.
Yes. Help on really multiple spots on the defensive side of the ball. Trade talk dominating the early portion of the show, Grant. N. Patillo, 63, says, do you think the Niners should try and trade for Kyle Pitts or Michael Mayer? Let me just say, as a Kyle Pitts fantasy manager, thanks for your 0 catches, 0 yards last week, dude. Like, is he just awful? Or are the Falcons just hideously mismanaging him? I don't get how he could have nothing.
I don't know. I liked him a lot in college. He was incredible in college. It seems like he'd be better on another team, maybe with another quarterback. But I don't know that he'd be good on the Niners because he's not much of a blocker. And the Niners don't really need more guys to catch passes because they don't have enough targets to go around as is. So it seems like they like Eric Sobert too. You know who likes Eric Sobert? Brock Purdy. Yeah. Actually throws to him. I mean, he seems like a good blocker. So maybe tight end, although George Kittle has gotten injured in like every game except week 1. So maybe tight end is a spot they need to look at.
He's battling a rib injury, I believe. I'm actually interested to see who does practice today, Grant, because we had a billion guys were all hurt, but they were all day-to-day. So to me, if you can practice on Wednesday after being day-to-day, that's a good sign.
Do you think Ricky Pearsall will practice today?
That's another thing I want to know because they have to decide whether or not they're going to open the practice window. Kyle didn't know on Monday. He said they weren't really sure. They also just signed Tariq Owens back to the practice squad. He was hurt coming out of the preseason, so they let him go. Now he's back on the practice squad. So, yeah, there's a bunch of things I want to hear answered today from Kyle when he speaks about 3 hours from now.
I would be surprised if Ricky Pearsall is activated today, not just because he got shot in the chest and that there's like mental trauma as opposed in addition to the physical trauma, but he also had an issue with his other shoulder. It just seems like maybe, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I would just be surprised. I'd be very surprised.
I mean, John Lynch and Kyle were really like effusive in is he going to play this year? Oh yeah. Like it was like not even a debate when they were talked about it. But the mental side of this is a totally separate thing, and I have no idea what that recovery is like or what even Ricky Pearsall is dealing with when it comes to that. But that is a whole separate side of this, aside from the physical, which everything we're hearing about the physical healing is that it's going great.
So who is on injury watch today? Is Ricky Pearsall back? Is Kittle out there? Is Warner out there?
Jacob Cowing was another guy that was day to day.
Does McCaffrey make an appearance?
Oh, Christian McCaffrey. All right. Well, let's start there. Because I heard an interesting interview.
Also, what shorts are Brandon Aiyuk? For the rest of the season, we're on shorts watch with Brandon Aiyuk.
Get those cameras ready for the part of practice.
Yeah.
I saw an interview. Ed McCaffrey, Christian's dad, was on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, and he brought up a couple of points that I thought were interesting. First, this is the worst possible injury for Christian McCaffrey because the prescription is do nothing, is rest. And he's incapable of doing that. Like Ed said that Christian didn't even take a honeymoon after his wedding because he went right back to training and working out. Like he's incapable of just letting his body rest. And when
in hindsight, he should have went on the honeymoon.
I mean, first of all, did you see who he married? Like you should have gone on your honeymoon, Christian.
It would have done his body good.
I mean, maybe he would have pulled something else, but that's a whole other discussion. But this is the worst thing for him because he can't just rest. He's not wired that way. And so that's why he went to Germany. Ed said he literally was like, is there anyone else on the planet that can help me recover from this? And he went to the other side of the planet to try and get that straightened out. And the other thing that Ed mentioned that I thought was really interesting too, he's like, my phone started blowing up with people. Hey, eat this for tendonitis, do this exercise. Here's how you recover. Everybody had suggestions. He said, I can only imagine what Christian McCaffrey's phone was like. And as a player, you have to sort through all of that. You have to figure out, like, is this good advice? Should I look into this? Is this nothing? Like, you have to parse through all of that stuff. And it has to be difficult.
Yeah, it seems like Christian has tried all the basic stuff, all the typical remedies to fix this. And like you said, maybe there's something intrinsic in him that is preventing him from resting enough. But it also feels like this is a tricky injury, and rest alone isn't going to fix it. So that's why he's going to Germany. I don't know. Best guess, Rob, based on nothing, do you think Christian McCaffrey will play this year?
Yes. I think he will play as we move into irresponsible speculation. I think he will play like a game. He'll come back. It'll be Christian McCaffrey's back. He'll play, and then it'll flare up again, and that'll be the end of it.
It's pretty bleak. But that's pretty realistic, actually. I could see the Niners pushing it. I could see Christian pushing it.
He
eventually.
Play.
Yeah. And
I just think that it could be the type of thing where even though it's not torn, like maybe you have to rest like the majority of the year. We don't know how long it would take to calm down. I mean, he rested, we thought, for at least the offseason and not so much. So it's a scary proposition, which is troubling for the Niners because you have to take some of the load off Jordan Mason.
Yeah, you do. And that shouldn't be the hardest thing in the world to do. I'm not saying Isaac Guerendo's the guy, but like finding a backup running back, like Matt Breida is available. They should be able to do that. But I think this is interesting. Like life without Christian McCaffrey, it hasn't really crippled the offense yet. They're not scoring like they did in the past, but they are moving the ball just as well. And I think like as they have more time away from him, they should be able to sort of reinvent themselves as Brock Purdy's offense and not Christian McCaffrey's offense. And that was a necessary evolution that was going to have to happen eventually. It's extremely embarrassing that they gave McCaffrey an extension, and someone's going to have to answer for that eventually. But right now, what's happening, it kind of reminds me, I brought this up a couple of days ago, it kind of reminds me of the Giants when I was in college, the New York Giants. They were Tiki Barber's team for a while. And that offense was all about giving it to him as much as he could physically handle. And then he retired, and people wrote him off. And Eli Manning led him to a freaking Super Bowl the next year. And no one really ever took that team that seriously. Never took him that seriously, but he did it. And maybe Brock could do something like that.
Well, that kind of leads me into the talking point I wanted to bring up for today. What carries over from the Patriots victory into this week? And for me, I think we are seeing a different, new, improved Brock Purdy. And I remember saying, hey, I think Brock might be better this year, but not statistically because he had such a good statistical year last year, 31 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Well, he's proven me wrong because he looks like a better quarterback and statistically he looks better. He's on pace to throw for 4,800 plus yards this year. That would shatter the record that he set himself last year. And you said it. The offense is different now because Christian McCaffrey is not there, and he's still putting up points. The Niners are putting up 24 points per game, almost 25 points per game. Last year, when they led the NFL in offensive touchdowns, they put up 28.9 points per game. So there has been a slight drop off, but not that much. And I think it's because of number 13.
I think so too. I mean, obviously Jennings is stepping up and Mason is stepping up, but now 13 went from being like a supporting actor to the catalyst of the offense. And he's doing a really good job. It doesn't seem like he has the same benefit of play action the way he had. Like Purdy was really good in the past, but I think a lot of people were skeptical because they're like, well, I mean, his receivers are wide open. This year, they're not. I mean, you could look on film and say that, well, this guy's open here, this guy's open there. But when the guys he's throwing to are generally covered pretty tightly. I mean, Jennings isn't going to have big time separation in any situation, but he's throwing accurate passes. These guys are making contested catches. It seems like this is the evolution that the Niners offense needs to make, especially if they're going to pay him all this money, which they're almost certainly going to do.
It looks different, and that's encouraging because the questions you had were, is he, can he throw it deeper down the field? Can he throw it in tighter windows? And he has answered all of them to this point this year. But I feel like for a lot of the Shanahan tenure, it was always Niners have the better team, but they don't have the advantage at quarterback. And I think looking at the rest of the schedule, other than honestly, like even the Chiefs game, Mahomes is Mahomes and he owns the 49ers. But right now, Brock's playing better than Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is still a better quarterback, but Brock's playing better than Mahomes. He's playing better than Dak Prescott and Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith and Geno Love. He's not playing better than Josh Allen because that dude is a friggin' alien. But other than that, the Niners have the quarterback advantage, I think, in every game on the schedule.
He's not playing better than Patrick Mahomes, but I understand what you're trying to say. I think with Brock, what I like about him right now is like his numbers aren't as good as they were in the past, but the degree of difficulty has ratcheted up for him. And I think with Mahomes, we're seeing I think it's on a little bit different level for him. He's got old Travis Kelce, no Rashee Rice. Like he's working with nothing over there in Kansas City. And I think his numbers are suffering, but I don't think he's necessarily regressed. I think most quarterbacks are struggling in the Kansas City situation right now.
What you're saying is
I would still take Patrick Mahomes over Brock Purdy.
Oh, yes. Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback, but he's not playing better right now. And if the argument is, well, he needs some Avengers around him, that's hilarious because
I'm not saying Avengers. I mean, I couldn't name who are his receivers right now. Who are his wide receivers right now? Name one.
Wide receiver, Xavier Worthy.
Okay.
The rookie.
Okay, got a rookie.
Don't you see the irony in everybody saying, well, Brock Purdy.
You need a weapon. You do need some weapons. I'm not saying you need 7 All-Pros, but if you take away, like Justin Herbert's struggling, does that mean he's not good, or does it mean that they took away all his weapons and his offensive coordinator is Greg Roman?
His offensive coordinator is.
I mean, I'm not to take it all, not to just give Patrick Mahomes a complete pass because he's won Super Bowls, but the degree of difficulty is pretty high for him right now. Maybe they'll trade for Tyreek Hill, and then he'll have no excuses. But right now, I think he's got some excuses. Just like Brock does.
Yeah, Mahomes is the better quarterback. Let me be crystal clear about that for sure. But I think Brock he's kicking ass. He's playing smart too. Vish on Monday called it chaotic calm. And I thought that was really interesting because he does the right thing most of the time, but before he does it, he makes your heart rate go through the roof sometimes because you're like, oh my God. But for the most part, he's protected the football. He has made heady plays. Even though it didn't work out, when he was scrambling around against the Rams, you could tell he made a point to stay in bounds, to run the clock out. He is protecting himself when he scrambles. I really think he is taking his game to a whole other level.
We're going too far, man. We're going too far. He's 2-2. Okay. And yeah, he beat the Patriots this week, and that's why everyone's being really upbeat. The Niners just won a game, so we're praising everyone on the team. They're 2-2, and he came off a 2-game losing streak where against the Vikings, really good team, he sacked himself 5 times. and fumbled a ball indoors because it slipped out of his hands and threw an interception on a pass intended for the fullback. So a little spotty. And then the week after that, like going against the worst defense in the league, has opportunities to bring the team back, makes a beautiful throw to Ronnie Bell that's dropped, but then he has Brandon Aiyuk wide open and doesn't pull the trigger. And which is why I think this last week was so important, because when he did have open guys deep down the field, he didn't hesitate. But I still feel like it's up and down with Brock Purdy, more ups than downs. But if he were making $60 million a year, we would be like, why he's 2-2? But right now it's still like, oh, wait a second. He's still Mr. Irrelevant. He's improving. The bar for scrutiny on him is going to go crazy in a year, just like it is with Aiyuk. And it's probably going to feel unfair at times.
He definitely did not have a good game against Minnesota, for sure. There is no sugarcoating that. Brian Flores had him flummoxed, and it was not a good game. The Rams game, they lost, yes, but again, when the world was crashing down around them, he throws a ball to Ronnie Bell. I mean, he can't do any more than that.
Yes, he can. He can do more than that because he had other opportunities, and Brandon Aiyuk was open. It's not enough to make one good throw when you're down. Like, franchise quarterbacks make multiple throws leading a team from behind. And they do it, like Stafford's been doing it week in and week out since I was in college. And Purdy's had the benefit of not being in those situations. And when you are, I'd like to see him make that throw to Aiyuk. Now, he did a good job in those situations in the playoffs, which is, I think, why a lot of people were so high on him against Green Bay and Detroit, because he didn't play that well the entire game, but he led the team from behind. He had the opportunity against the Rams and couldn't do it. Made the one throw. You got to make two. He
made multiple plays in that game. Don't forget
Jake Moody. Make enough.
Jake Moody field goal that would have put them up by double digits.
He didn't make enough. Well, he had more opportunity. I mean, he saw Brandon Aiyuk. He was staring at him. He didn't throw the ball. That's on him.
Yeah, that was a bad one.
And then he corrected it the next week, which is why we love Brock. Well, Jimmy would just stop throwing that pass. And did.
Well, yeah, who cares about Jimmy Garoppolo? He's irrelevant. I did just see Brock Purdy throw 3 touchdowns on 1 possession this past week also. Talking about somebody that
I also saw him throw an interception in the end zone, up multiple scores in the fourth quarter. Like, take a knee. The game is over. Like, you are letting the Patriots back in the game. Fortunately, they have no offense, so it doesn't really matter. But he's not perfect yet. He's not Patrick Mahomes yet. Like, that was ridiculous.
Who's saying
he's not the MVP? He's not even as good as Sam Darnold this year.
Oh, he's way better than Sam Darnold.
No, he's not. Sam Darnold is the MVP of the league right now. If you're going to say that Brock Purdy is having a better season than Patrick Mahomes, then Sam Darnold's having a better season than Brock Purdy, objectively.
No, I don't think so.
No, he is.
You just talked about degree of difficulty. What Brock?
Yeah, but you discounted that by saying that Brock Purdy's having a better season than Patrick Mahomes. So Sam Darnold's having a better season than Brock Purdy by your standards.
I don't think so. Because if you look at what Sam Darnold is doing the things that we accused early Brock Purdy of doing and Jimmy Garoppolo of doing. He's running a fantastic scheme, and he's running it exactly the way it needs to be run. And they are running circles around people in Minnesota.
So Brock. So is Brock. Wait, because he lost Christian McCaffrey, and he only has the best tight end in football, and he only has 2 of the most expensive wide receivers in football. He only has the leading rusher in football, and he only has the 3rd leading receiver in football. Like, oh my God, my heart breaks for Brock Purdy. What a struggle he's gone through this year.
Brock Purdy is throwing the ball deeper down the field. He's throwing the ball to receivers with less separation, and he is completing them at a way higher rate than anybody. He has 37 completions of 10 or more yards this year. That is 11 more.
Sam Darnold's quarterback rating is 118. He has 11 touchdown passes this season. 11. How many does Brock have?
I don't know.
Right.
Off the top of my head. I don't know.
Yeah. If he had 11, you'd know, though.
But just because Sam Darnold has more counting stats when Jordan Mason is playing well, doesn't necessarily mean that he's playing better. What are the plays? Are the plays wide open? How difficult are the throws? I mean, if we're talking degree of
5 touchdown passes, Brock, in 4 games.
Okay.
It's not great. It's not great.
If we're talking degree of difficulty, the throws that Brock Purdy is making are more difficult than the throws.
I was trying to follow your logic when you were saying that Brock Purdy is a better quarterback right now than Patrick, or having a better year than Patrick Mahomes right now. If Brock Purdy is playing better than Patrick Mahomes right now, which he's not, then Sam Darnold is playing better than Brock Purdy right now.
I don't think so. I think Sam Darnold is a scheme merchant right now.
And Brock's not.
No. We just talked about how he's throwing the ball deeper down the field
because Christian McCaffrey's out. He's no longer a scheme merchant. I thought he has Kyle Shanahan. He has Jawan Jennings. He has Jordan Mason. He has Bobby Turner. He's not a scheme merchant.
Sam Darnold has Kevin O'Connell and the best wide receiver in football. What are we doing here?
Wow, man. What are we doing here? You really telling me that you take away Christian McCaffrey and all of a sudden Brock Purdy is struggling for weapons?
George Kittle has been out and Deebo Samuel has been out.
And he lost those games.
He lost those games. He has Jordan Mason, an undrafted running back, and Jawan.
He has the second leading rusher in the NFL. He is the third leading receiver in the NFL. Like, wow, man. Is that not enough?
What do we talk about? We talk about quarterbacks elevating talent around.
I mean, Mahomes doesn't have that. Who's his running back?
Kareem Hunt right now.
Okay. Dude, if you gave Mahomes Jawan Jennings and Jordan Mason, his numbers would be incredible. And he's still 4-0. He's still 4-0.
Well, yeah, they haven't
really praising a 2-2 quarterback right now.
Yeah. You're giving me TV wins?
You know why? Because he makes $1 million a year. When he makes $60 million a year, we're not going to praise him when he's 2-2 and he lost to the Rams.
The Rams loss was a bad loss, but he wasn't the only reason they lost to the Rams.
It doesn't matter. If you're the $60 million quarterback, you have to be the reason you win. You have to hit that throw to Brandon Aiyuk. If you're making $1 million a year, people just applaud you for the effort.
You're going to sit here and say Patrick Mahomes is 4-0. He's not the reason they're 4-0. The defense is
the reason they're 4-0. The defense?
Yeah.
Okay.
The defense is awesome in Kansas City.
Yeah, man. Patrick Mahomes is overrated.
I never said that. Those words never came out of my mouth. I mean, if we're going to argue,
who's having a better year than Brock Purdy than you in your mind right now?
As a quarterback?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Okay. The 2-2 guy who lost to the Rams and sacked himself 5 times week 2 is the best quarterback in the league this year. All right, man. Okay. We can move on. We just disagree.
Joe Crowell says, I like to see 13 quit with the weird turnovers. That Vikings game was winnable without them. The Vikings game was not a good game. Clearly. I mean, you can't really argue he played well against the Vikings. He did not.
5 touchdown passes in 4 games.
Sorry.
It's not
unassailable.
Not enough.
I thought we were done arguing.
Well, then you brought that up.
Warlock says, the way the defense and special teams are playing, Christian McCaffrey's injuries, would you call it a successful season if the 49ers make the playoffs but lose? I don't think this is a Super Bowl expectation team. No. To me, you can't change the expectations.
This team is still loaded. They lost McCaffrey and they replaced him with the second leading rusher in the NFL. Come on. Are you kidding?
The McCaffrey injury.
Jordan Mason is better than any running back the Niners have developed since they got here. He's better than Breida. He's better than Jeff Wilson Jr. They inherited Raheem Mostert from Chip Kelly.
You're so okay.
But like in terms of like the Bobby Turner creations, Mason's clearly the best. He's like Arian Foster. He has the type of ability to lead the league in rushing in this system.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting comparison. Elijah Mitchell was really good. He just could not stay on the damn field.
That's part of playing playing running back, though.
Fair.
This guy has been able to be the hardest runner in the league, and he hasn't gotten hurt. That's incredible. But it's been 4 games, and I just jinxed him. I'm sorry, Jordan and 49er fans. Yeah,
just
sorry about that.
On wood. Frank Tom Ocean, YouTube channel for 18 months. Thank you very much for the support, Frank. Daza says, I understand the market value will now be $60 million a year for Brock, but why does that mean you should pay that? Is Brock Purdy really worth $30 million per year more than Baker or similar level quarterbacks? That's an all-pro wide receiver or defensive end.
That's a good question. That is the question that NFL teams have to answer right now. And I'm with Daz on this. I don't feel comfortable paying Purdy 30 more than Baker or 15 more than Mahomes, 15 more than Allen. That seems like not a recipe to win a Super Bowl with any quarterback.
The market rate is the market rate. That's why you pay it, because it is the market rate. Let me put it this way. Why would Brock Purdy sign a deal that's less than market rate?
What's more important, having a quote unquote franchise quarterback paid market rate or winning a Super Bowl?
Why can't you do both? Patrick,
where's the evidence that you can win a Super Bowl paying a quarterback $60 million a year?
Well, we haven't seen many quarterbacks get $60 million a year yet because the market rate hasn't. It just recently got.
How many teams have won a Super Bowl when you're paying 60 or whatever the percentage is, whatever the percentage is, 60 million next year, and whatever the percentage is for Aiyuk, 30 million for a wide receiver? Like that's 90 million for 2 players. Usually teams pay one or the other or neither.
I mean,
the Patriots never spent that much money on a wide receiver when they were paying all that money for for Brady. Stafford, they weren't paying a bunch of money for Cup until after they won the Super Bowl. I don't know. It doesn't seem like that's necessarily the best way to build a Super Bowl, but the Niners are still trying to find that formula.
There's a lot of different ways to do it, but I just don't see why Brock would sign for less than a market rate. Like, what? Why would he?
I mean, if he wants to go get $60 million a year playing for, Jacksonville, he can go be Kirk Cousins.
I just think that if I'm Brock, I'm sitting here saying, yeah, I'm clearly worth the market rate. Okay. I was in the MVP conversation until Christmas last year because I had one bad game, and then all of a sudden people took me out of the MVP conversation. Sure. He's in the MVP conversation this year as well.
Who finished higher in the MVP conversation than him last year? Dak.
No. Dak. Yeah, Dak had an awesome year last year.
And then he got paid. Are the Cowboys smart for that? Are they going to win the Super Bowl? Are they closer to winning the Super Bowl because they extended Dak?
Are they closer? No, because they had Dak before.
Right.
They're not further away either.
Right. But do you take them seriously? Like, do you feel like the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl?
No, but not because they're paying Dak Prescott that money. Because of the rest
of Dak and CD, and the rest of their team is falling apart.
They literally did nothing in the offseason. Absolutely nothing.
How much can you do when you're spending all that money on two players?
They botched the negotiations with CeeDee Lamb because they didn't pay him sooner. They absolutely should have. They botched the negotiations with Dak Prescott again because they should have paid him sooner, and they didn't. And they still haven't signed Micah Parsons.
I mean, their defense is currently ranked 26th. Like, that's so predictable. When you spend all that money on a wide receiver and a quarterback, you're inevitably going to have an awful defense. And what's crazy about Dallas is their offense isn't even that good. It's ranked like 11th. That's what's going to happen to the 49ers when they're spending $90 million a year on Brock and Aiyuk.
I don't think that their offense and defense are bad because they paid Dak and CeeDee Lamb. They're basically the same team as last year. They're just not playing as well. But I don't think it has to do with the money that they're paying those guys.
You're gonna sacrifice a lot of depth when you spend all that money on the two most expensive positions on the team. Anyway, we'll see what happens. I feel like the Niners and the Cowboys have a lot more in common than Niner fans are care to admit, because it's so easy to make fun of the Cowboys as a team that's not really in it to win it all, and they're kind of content to be in the mix, and they like to be talked about, but they're not a serious contender. I think the Niners are a lot closer to that than Niner fans are willing to admit.
The Cowboys, though, like, what did Jerry Jones just say? Oh, wait, we couldn't get Derrick Henry. We couldn't afford Derrick Henry. Like, the Cowboys are not making trades at midseason to bring in a Christian McCaffrey, to bring in Randy Gregory, to bring in Chase Young. They don't give you the impression that they're actually trying. They're doing the opposite. They're sitting on their hands and saying, well, there was nothing we could do. So I feel like that's why the perception is a little different between the Niners and the Cowboys. Not to mention the fact that the Niners actually go to
the Super Bowl and the Cowboys don't. Again, the Niners are better than but the Cowboys have been spending big money on their quarterback for a while. Like, let's see what the Niners look like 3-4 years down the line when Brock's been the highest paid player on the team and he's still justifying it with his yearly Pro Bowl appearance.
Antonio says Purdy has a higher PFF grade, big time throw percentage, lower turnover worthy play percentage, higher average depth of target, higher drop percentage, and lower pressure to sack percentage than Sam Darnold. He also has a higher completion percentage over expectation and EPA per drop back. What's the argument for Darnold?
Well, Darnold has 11 touchdown passes in 4 games, and Brock has 5. Darnold is 4-0 and Brock is 2-2. But those are great. PFF grades and CPOE and AA and EPA, whatever stat you want to lean on, that's great. But I'm telling you, you're not going to care about his A dot if he's 2-2 making $60 million a year. You're not going to care. You're going to be like 5 touchdowns in 4 games. That's what $60 million a year gets you these days. And if you don't believe me, look at the discourse around Aiyuk. Is he getting open? Yeah. Does anyone care? No, because he's not producing. End of story. It's a production league.
It's 100
when money's involved.
This is a hilarious comment. Brandon says, Rob's sounding like a Brock homer right now, saying others are better than him isn't hating. I have simultaneously been accused of being too negative, too positive, a Brock Purdy hater, and now a Brock Purdy homer. I can't win.
I didn't call you any of those things, for the record.
Brandon did. Is that your burner?
Yeah.
Joseph Mancusi says, y'all are both biased, but statistically, Purdy's playing better than Mahomes. Watch Chase Daniel's podcast about Purdy. He's Mahomes' old backup.
All I'm saying is, it's true that Purdy is playing statistically better than Mahomes. It's also true that Darnold's playing statistically better than Purdy. And that was I was trying to make that argument seem absurd, and then we got caught in the weeds. So I think we made the points. We made the points.
Joseph also says, are you going to pay market rate for a car? Yes, you probably are with your Kia Stinger.
Yeah, no. I got the Kia Stinger used with 9,000 miles on it, only 9, which took $15,000 off the sticker price. It was one of my better purchases. $15K. This was back right after the pandemic. That's right.
Pretty good.
That's pretty good.
9,000 miles on a car is not that many.
Nothing.
Don't hate on the Kia Stinger.
What color on that? Yeah.
What color is it?
Blue. Oh, don't make that face. Okay, look, maybe not for you, but I can pull it off.
Well, I drive a red car right now, and I absolutely hate it.
Ostentatious.
It's awful, but it was somebody rear-ended me and totaled my car, and I had to get a car fast, and that was the only one they had, so I had to get it. But
you seem like a minivan driver.
No, what? That's one of the biggest insults you've ever said to me.
I take it back. You seem like a Volvo driver.
I'm a Subaru driver.
Subaru, that was my next guess. Forester. Subaru Forester.
My wife has a Forester. I have a Legacy. But yeah,
you wouldn't go for the WRX. It's a little too much.
No, I did have an Impreza before that.
Hey, nice. But now you're a dad. You had to dial it back a little bit, but you're a dedicated Subaru owner. Hey, respect.
I had to get the bigger car when we had kids, but
I had to get the bigger car, man. Hey, when you hit that midlife crisis, though, get the WRX, man. Come on with the spoiler.
I tell you, dude, it's coming. I will never forget in my little Subaru Impreza once when I was producing Mike and Mike, we had to go to the airport after a show, and Mike Golick decided he wanted to drive my car. 6'5" Mike Golick was going to drive my tiny little Impreza to the airport.
Before or after he lost the weight?
After.
In the process.
Yeah, it was more after than before.
Okay.
He got in that car. He made that vehicle move faster than I have ever seen that damn car move. We got to the airport in like 35 minutes, and he got out of the car and he said, "That's a good little car." And I removed my knuckles from the safety harness.
It is a good little car.
I missed that car. Anyway, John Brown says the top 4 out of the top 5 QBR quarterbacks have at least one interception. We nitpick Brock's mistakes without fully acknowledging he's becoming a playmaker.
He's definitely becoming a playmaker. Look, I just spent 10 minutes arguing against Brock for the sake of it, but I like Brock. I think he's really good, and arguing about how much money he's worth is more a conversation about the quarterback market in general than him. And I think I'm more enthusiastic about Brock than Rob is deep down, because I think Brock is like the most important person on this offense. And I think Rob still thinks it's Kyle, but maybe I'm putting words in his mouth.
That's a good question, especially now that Christian McCaffrey is out.
Yep.
I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. To be determined.
Brock has made a lot of plays this year outside of the structure of the offense, extending the plays, using his legs. So that stuff you can't credit Kyle for, because that's Brock. But he's also made a lot of plays inside the structure of the offense. I'd have to think about that before I answer.
Also, I always blame Kyle for like the chokes late in the game, but Brock's got to own that one against the Rams because he had the guy open, and that was kind of schemed open by Kyle to a degree. So I don't know. We'll see. See how the season ends.
Christian Ayala says, block for Brock, also special teams wake up. Yeah, my God, the special teams. It's every week.
It's the worst special teams in the league statistically, according to EPA or whatever. The worst.
And like, I know it's not Brian Schneider can't stop Isaac Orendo from fumbling, but I would just like 1 week to go by where they don't make hideous special teams plays. I mean, Mitch Wishnowski's punts have been terrible for the most part in key situations, setting up the other team in field position, combined with the fact that the punt coverage has been terrible. It's just every week with Brian Schneider.
Let's talk about special teams for a second. So Mitch Wishnowski was hurt all year. He's older than people realize. They drafted him. He was like 28. So he's in his 30s. He had some knee thing, which is like, what? You're a punter. Missed all the offseason. The Niners bring in that, I forget his name.
Presley Harvin.
Thank you. And he was really good in the preseason. They let him go, bring back Wishnowski. He's not exactly in the groove yet. And then they get rid of Ray McLeod, who made the one mistake in the Super Bowl, egregious, but essentially was a very dependable returner, kickoff returner, punt returner, except for that awful mistake. They get rid of him, and bring in 2 rookies to replace him, Garendo and Jacob Cowing, who both have fumbled already. So maybe it's Brian Schneider's fault, or maybe this is a personnel thing.
I was totally fine with them letting Ray McLeod go. Cowing had a bad fumble.
Me too.
But I want to see more of Cowing. Unfortunately, now he's banged up, so who knows?
No. Forget that. Trent Taylor time. It's coming.
Oh, God.
You knew it was coming. As soon as there was one muff punt, Trent Taylor time.
You know who I don't want to see returning punts ever again? Kyle Juszczyk. No.
And now he's hurt. And now he's a shoulder injury.
I don't need to see Coach's buddy back there. Like, that made no sense to me, Grant. The only way the Patriots were going to come back in that game is if the 49ers turn the ball over, particularly on special teams, right? Because when you turn the ball over on special teams, usually you are massively flipping the field position. Why not just have nobody back there on that punt return? You don't need the points or the yards. You're already winning by multiple scores. You put nobody back there, there is zero chance of a turnover. Right. Zero. But instead, we put the fullback back there because...
Also, zero chance of a penalty. It seems like there's more likely something bad is going to happen than something good. Yes. And now that they've changed the rules on kickoffs, it's like there is literally no reason to bring that ball out. Like, you're not getting past the 30. You're not getting past the 30. So just take the 30. What are you doing? What is with that new rule? It's awful. They got to get rid of it after this year. It's made it worse.
What they need to do, if they change where the touchback goes, they've got to figure out how far forward they can move the touchback to that will cause people to actually return or not kick the ball in the end zone, I should say, and that's a tough needle to thread, frankly.
Or you can move the touchback back to the 20 like it used to be and actually encourage people to take the ball out and run.
Yeah, that's fair too.
Because if you run the ball, you might get to the 25.
Joshua Wyatt, YouTube channel member, says, if they trade Brock in the offseason, what would the return be? Same mistake as Brandon Aiyuk. How are you going to pay $30 million for a guy you couldn't even get a first for?
I think you could get a first for Brock.
Oh, my God.
He's a quarterback.
Yeah.
And, like, you could say he's a scheme fit, but, like, 25 teams run this game. So I think a lot of teams would – if the Vikings wanted Sam Darnold, a lot of teams would want Brock Purdy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And for the record, I still think Brock Purdy's better than Sam Darnold. I know I was making the argument earlier that Darnold's having a better season, just like Rob was making the argument that Mahomes is having a better season than Purdy, but we all agree that it's Mahomes, Purdy, Darnold in terms of the intrinsic value of them.
What you said was that Darnold is playing better right now. That doesn't necessarily,
different.
Fonzie Gonzalez says, I have confidence that the 49ers will wake up and have a stronger second half of the season, but then I remember Shanahan gonna Shanahan. It's funny to me that, like, people look at the Super Bowl, this past Super Bowl, like a choke job. Like, it went to almost double overtime in the Super Bowl. It's not like the first Super Bowl was way worse. The 10-point lead with like 5-6 minutes to go is way worse. This past Super Bowl, I don't look at as a choke job.
Okay. I'm not going to argue with you on that one. Don't get me started, Rob. It's 9:55 on the. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that today with you, man. He choked. He absolutely choked. He had the better team. He couldn't pick up a blitz to save his life. He didn't know the rules. He didn't know the rules. That'd be like the Mariners being like going to extra innings and be like, hold on. We're at home, but can we hit first? Can we please hit first? We want to hit first. What are you talking about? Anyway. Yeah, he choked. Big time.
First of all, don't bring the Mariners into it, all right? I got enough problems.
Are they out? Are they in the postseason? I don't.
They're out. Are they out?
Because I'm going up next week. I wanted to watch them play, but they're out. Sorry.
You know what? They're also out in 2025 and 2026 and 2027. Just
remember when they had Griffey and A-Rod and Jay Buhner and Edgar Martinez and Randy Johnson? Who else? That team was so good. Love that team.
They had. We're getting off on a tangent here, but they had like the best 4 players in franchise history at the same time.
Yeah, they did.
And then
Edgar Martinez was so good.
Yeah.
God, he was good. And Griffey, people don't. He was my favorite player because he played center. Yeah, Bonds was great, but Bonds didn't play center. Griffey played center. He was so good, and he had his hat backwards sometimes. That was so cool.
He was everybody's favorite.
He was everyone's favorite player. You don't understand. There aren't stars like that in baseball. Shohei Ohtani, better player than Griffey was, not a bigger star though.
Interesting.
I mean, Griffey couldn't pitch.
Well, neither can Otani right now. Anyway, let's get back to football. Niners play the Cardinals this week. I saw something that was interesting about Kyler Murray. And of course, now that I want to talk about it, I can't find it. It was a tweet from Josh Norris, who basically, here it is. Let me see if I can throw it up on the screen finally as I figure this podcasting thing out. Maybe I've got a future in it. Basically, Kyler is really good on the scripted part of the game and really not good after that. Josh says on the 15 plays in 4 games this season, on the opening 15 plays, Kyler's 22 of 27 for 290 yards with 5 touchdowns, a sack, and 5 scrambles. All other dropbacks after the opening 15 plays, Kyler Murray is 56 of 88 for 530 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 9 sacks, and 5 scrambles. That is a huge difference. So I will be on the lookout in this game on Sunday. Let's see what the Cardinals do on their opening drive or 2. And then after that, does the offense look the same? So if they score on their opening drive, I am not going to freak out because I'm going to remember this tweet from Josh Norris.
That's a great stat. And it reminds me a little bit of the Chip Kelly 49ers. If you remember that team, they would score on their first drive a lot. They would, because teams weren't really used to their tempo, and you would try to practice against it, but you couldn't really simulate it. And then after a quarter, you'd be like, okay, I feel it. They're not that good. They run 4 plays. I'm not saying that's what the Cardinals do, but it does sort of speak to them not having much of an offense or that much talent. I'm trying to look right now at some advanced stats from them. Bear with me for a second, because we know they have Marvin Harrison Jr. Let me look at what's working for them in the passing game. When they throw to Marvin Harrison Jr., Kyler Murray's got a 107 quarterback rating. But after that, he doesn't have a ton of success throwing it. Michael Wilson is someone he throws to. Greg Dortch is okay. And then Trey McBride. I don't know how much talent they really have. I think this is another game that the Niners should be able to win. The problem is the running game. Kyler can run. Connor can run. The Niners have had some trouble with that. They did a great job against the Patriots running game last week. Let's see if they can do it again.
Connor always seems to run well against the 49ers. He breaks a ton of tackles, and that's something from the Patriots game that I don't think is going to carry over. The Niners did a great job on 3rd down against the Patriots. They gave up the first 2 3rd downs, and then they held the Patriots to just 3 of 14 on 3rd down the rest of the day. I think that has more to do with the Patriots being bad than it does with the 49ers defense suddenly fixing their issues. So that is definitely going to be something for me to keep an eye on, is what do they do against Arizona in 3rd down, especially 3rd and long, because they seem to give up a ton of those this year.
I don't think Arizona has the talent to really sustain drives through the air against the Niners. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a big play threat, but can Kyler Murray, is he really good enough to stand in the pocket, look at a defense, and keep moving the chains? I don't know. Where they're dangerous is they may be able to run the ball for 150 yards, 200 yards. And how many big plays are they going to have where Kyler Murray scrambles around, throws deep, or scrambles for 16 yards on 3rd and 14? They have like 3 or 4 of those plays in them. And if the Niners offense is messing around or turns the ball over, they could lose. Otherwise, I feel like the Niners should be able to score 30 plus points and win decisively.
If Fred Warner doesn't play, that obviously changes the calculation a little bit. Dave 184 Infantry says, Grant asked Kyle how he plans on fixing the defense on 3rd down since the buck stops with him. 49ers,
he'll tell me that. Thank you.
49ers throwback says the Cardinals O-line gave up 29 pressures against the Commanders per PFF, and the Commanders defense is awful right now. It is hideously bad. Now their offense cannot be stopped. They went they just punted last week for the first time since week 1. They were crushing people on offense, but the Commanders defense stinks. So if they gave up 29 pressures, that's a good sign for the Niners.
I'm so surprised that Cliff Kingsbury is actually doing a good job. I've never seen it happen.
Me
too. So maybe he's better than I thought, or maybe Jaden Daniels is incredible.
Yeah, I was not a believer in Cliff in that offense. I was kind of laughing he's going to waste another one, but they have been lighting it up. So
they have been
for Jaden Daniels. But so that'll be something I keep an eye on, because I don't think that the 49ers defense is fixed. I think that They still, Fred Warner told the Fox broadcast crew that they're going through growing pains, was the phrase he used. Now, he didn't say whether it was the new guys going through growing pains or whether it was Nick Sorensen going through growing pains. He didn't specify, so I don't know. But I thought that was interesting because, week one, it was flawless for the defense, to use Fred's word. And now, after a few weeks and a couple losses, there's growing pains.
Yeah, and it's like, do you really change your opinion about a defense after they face New England? That's a little irresponsible. I think New England pretty much could stop itself on offense. What are they even trying to do? So it's 4 games. It's too early to say that the Niners defense is screwed or it's great, or I don't really know what their defense is. Last week, their defensive line was incredible. Incredible. The week before, not at all. So we'll see which D-line shows up this game.
And if the Niners offense can just improve in the red zone a little more, they may take all the pressure off the Niners defensive line anyway. That is one area where they have struggled without Christian McCaffrey.
I feel like ever since before McCaffrey got here, they had the same issue, and it was with Jimmy, and everyone blamed Jimmy. And then Jimmy came here, and they started doing a little bit better, and then Brock replaced Jimmy, and they were scoring 35 points almost routinely. Now Christian's gone, and it seems like they can move the ball up and down the field, but when it's time to score, who are you going to? And I don't know. Brock hasn't figured it out. Kyle hasn't figured it out. It seems like they have options like Kittle. Kittle, how about your freaking all-pro tight end who makes incredible catches over 3 defenders? He's a great go-to guy down there. Mason is another one. You still have Debo. It seems like they should be able to figure this out, even without McCaffrey.
It has been an issue for the Shanahan offensive system. He's really struggled in that area of the field. You would think that they should at least be able to run the ball better in the red zone, but I can't find the actual stat right now, but I saw it earlier. They are even bad running the ball in the red zone, regardless of Brock or Kittle or any of that. Like, it has bogged down, and it has taken some of these games that could have been more of blowouts and kept them closer than they need to be. Please just cash in the red zone.
What they used to do when they would get in between the 10 and the 20, 15 yards out, that was like end around to Debo. Reverse to Debo, screen to Debo. How many times have we seen Debo score from like 15 yards out? I'm surprised they're not doing that as much anymore. But at the same time, he hasn't been the same yak threat this year.
It's also like that was sort of their red zone fix. It was like, yeah, we have problems in the red zone. How about we just score before we get there? And most of the time it friggin' worked. If you look at like Kittle's touchdowns too, he's got like more touchdowns of 30 plus yards than I think he has red zone touchdowns in his career, because it's just explode. He's just that kind of an explosive player. But once they get to the 20, especially too, there have been penalties in the red zone, and penalties in the red zone will kill you every time. Illegal shift penalties, holding penalties. They got to at least clean that up.
One thing I don't like about Kyle as an offensive guy, I feel like in the red zone, he's more trying to trick you. Until he had McCaffrey. When he got McCaffrey, it's like, this is my go-to guy. I'm giving him the ball. He's going to score. But without McCaffrey, and he did this in Atlanta too with Julio Jones. It's like, oh, you think I'm going to Julio, right? Well, he's a decoy, and I'm actually throwing this pass to this wide receiver who was lined up as a fullback, and you didn't see. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's great, man, sometimes. But like, who is your go-to guy down here? Who's your go-to guy? It was Christian. He's not there anymore. Is it Jordan? Is it George? Is it Debo? Is it Jawan? Like, I don't think he necessarily has one, and he's sort of trying to trick the other team.
It was Aiyuk for a hot minute, but that has since calmed down. I found the tweet that I wanted to bring up from Nick Wagner of ESPN, who has great stuff. Niners are tied for 19th in red zone touchdown efficiency at 50% and 18th in goal-to-go touchdown efficiency at 71.4%. They've gotten 4 offensive penalties in the red zone. That's tied for the 3rd most. And they're averaging just 2.5 yards per carry, which is 17th in the NFL. So that's literally below average, and less than a yard after contact, which is 28th. So they are just, it is completely bogged down in the red zone. And they have
deceiving though. Like, you can't, runs from the 19 are not the same as runs from the 2. So I'd like to know how that breaks down from like high red zone, low red zone, goal line. But fair point.
Their 3rd down conversion rate in the red zone is just 18.2%, which is 2nd worst in the league.
Or too much talent. Like, Brock's too good, Jawan's too good, Kittle's too good, Kyle's too good. They should be able to fix this.
And they have 18 plays that have gone for no gain or a loss, which is the 3rd most in the NFL. And only one of those 18 plays is a sack. So it's not Brock taking sacks. That's the crazy part. It is just ground to a halt in that part of the field.
See, to me, that's where I feel like losing McCaffrey and losing an identity is catching up to them. They can move the ball with whomever, largely because of Kyle's scheme and because Brock is really good. And there's weapons here. But like when they get time to score, I think you have to have an identity. It's something you want to do beyond just catch the other team off guard or throw it behind the line of scrimmage and hope a guy breaks a bunch of tackles. Like when they do actually throw the ball into the end zone, seems like there's some good results. It's like, that's on Kyle. You got to call those plays.
I think their identity is they want to run the ball. They just been failing at it. Like it just has not been working.
Then that's not your identity. Like what works? Throwing to Kittle works. We've seen it. So that needs to be something you do more as long as he's healthy. Doesn't require him to run much.
49ers 101 says, Cone, did the thrift only have extra large t-shirts? Are you wearing an extra large t-shirt? I didn't notice.
No, this is a large. This is a Kirkland white tee. Thank you.
Shout out Kirkland. They make t-shirts. They make vodka.
They make tequila. They make golf balls.
Right. They make everything.
Yes.
They make garbage bags. Joshua Wyatt, YouTube channel member, says any quarterback worth $60 million would draw 3 or 4 first rounders. Burrow, Herbert, Mahomes, Allen, Lamar would all take blockbuster deals. Would anyone give 3 first rounders for Brock so they could pay him $60 million? Well,
that's a good question.
It's part of when you get into that, like you have to trade for him and re-sign him. That's difficult. Like the Niners traded 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. They didn't pay him $60 million a year, right? Like if you have to do both, you're probably not making that deal.
But who did that? Cleveland did that for Deshaun Watson. How'd that work out?
Yeah, that is one of the most crazy stories. Like Deshaun Watson, when he was with Houston, was right there with Patrick Mahomes. He was kicking ass. And then he goes to Cleveland. He has all the off-field stuff comes to light. And he's not just bad, Grant. He's historically bad. He's the worst quarterback the Browns have had from a performance standpoint since they came back to the league in 1999. It's
bad.
Stunning.
Speaking about bad stories, too, you heard about this Aaron Hernandez guy?
Yes.
Have you seen the show about him on FX?
I haven't watched it, no.
Seen some clips. Whew. First of all, they get some guy who's like 5'8" to play Aaron Hernandez. It's comical.
Really?
Yeah. He doesn't look like an athlete at all. I don't understand what they're going for. But anyway, I saw some clips. It was eye-opening.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You hear little nuggets about him from like players and things he would say and do in the locker room. And it's like scary, scary stuff.
Yep. Anyway, sorry to take it there.
Thomas Luttrell says he's from Rob's home state. That's true. He's from Bristol, Connecticut, same town as ESPN is in.
That's right. I blame ESPN.
God. Before we go, we should talk about the spread of this game because we haven't done it yet.
I was going to remind you.
Let's go. I know I forgot last week. Let's go to the BetUS website right now. Niners favored by 8 against the Cardinals. Niners are at home. That seems right to me. I've taken some issue with some of the spreads this year, but this one I think makes perfect sense.
I would think so. The 49ers are better than the Cardinals. It seems like the Niners play really hard at home. They played hard against the Patriots. They played hard against the Jets. Effort was questionable in the 2 road games. And I guess a team who's tuning out its head coach, if that's what's happening, and I don't know that that's what's happening, tends to not play as well on the road. I feel like a team that isn't cohesive, let's take Kyle out of it. That's the head coach's responsibility. A team that's not cohesive generally struggles on the road. And I go back to the Tom Sula year. Remember that year? They're 5-11.
Unfortunately,
they're 4-4 at home. They often played hard and won like some not impressive games, but like competed. They freaking competed at home. They never competed on the road. I think they won 1 road game, but they had some incredible. They lost to Johnny Manziel on the road, and I think that was sort of the marker of a coach who didn't really have his team together. So I think they should absolutely handle this one. I'm curious to see how they do on the road this year.
I think it's early in the year. They've played 2 road games. One of them was against a really good team in Minnesota in a really tough place to play. Minnesota is a very tough environment. Plus, I don't know if you heard, Grant, it was very hot in Minnesota. Apparently, that was
so strange and loud.
Who would have guessed it was loud in Minnesota? But I think I would take the Niners in this one. I would give the 8 points. I would feel pretty comfortable about that. And if you do too, you should bet it with BetUS. You can receive 150% on your first deposit and 125% on your second and third deposit up to $2,000. Just make sure you use code YouTube150 to get that deal. I highly recommend it. I highly recommend BetUS. They sponsor the show. They have fast and easy deposit and withdrawal, fastest payouts in the industry, and you can get a personal account manager. What other site is going to give you a personal account manager? They sponsor this show. They sponsor Grant's channel as well. Shout out to BetUS.
One more thing. I like looking at the over-under and comparing it to the spread. So it's the over-under is 50. The spread is +8. That means that the odds makers essentially expect the Niners to win 29-21, which again seems right. Like, I can't name more than one player on the Cardinals defense. The Niners should be expected to score about 29, 30 points, even without Christian McCaffrey. I don't want to hear about your red zone problems. Figure it out. Figure it out, Kyle, Brock, all of you.
Like, even if the Niners only put up like 24 points, if they cashed in at every time in the red zone, I would feel like better about the offense, because most touchdowns are scored in the red zone. If you can't score from that area, you're not going to be able to consistently win. So they got to get it fixed. They have to.
Let me just look real quick at what their percentage was last year. Last year, they were number one.
Yeah.
They were number one. They converted in the red zone 68% of the time. And that was a direct reflection of Christian McCaffrey being the offensive player of the year. This year, again, as you said, they're at 50%. They're down 18%. And that's the Christian McCaffrey effect. That can't happen. They have too much talent. Brock's too good.
And hopefully they have adjusted now, right? It's been a month. It doesn't look like he's coming back. You know, they say early November, maybe, but who the hell knows, honestly?
You know who's worse in the red zone than the Niners?
The Cardinals?
Kansas City.
Really? Because
Kansas City. You know who's great in the red zone?
The Vikings.
The Cardinals.
Oh.
72%.
Wow.
72%. The Chiefs, 44%. So, I think Mahomes just forgot how to play quarterback all of a sudden.
Diehard 49ers 101 says Randall Cobb is a quality punt and kick returner.
Randall Cobb is 40 years old.
Thank you for that. That's really odd to just chime in with that, but we appreciate the super chat nonetheless.
He was drafted in like 2012.
Yeah. Well, hell, Jason Peters is back in the league now with the Seahawks practice squad. You think he's like a billion years old, but
what's the point of being on a practice squad at 40 years old, man? Just let it go.
I think that they're going to activate him eventually. They always do like those weird kind of shuffling things. But anyway, Kyle Shanahan will speak in a few hours. I want updates on everybody that was day to day. I want Ricky Pearsall. Give me the Ricky Pearsall news we all want.
No, I'm only going to give you Brandon Aiyuk shorts news. Oh, now you want to turn it on because now you see that we're ending. Thanks a lot. The Yorks.
Are you surprised that the Brandon Aiyuk shorts thing like became a thing because you had that video? Nobody else had that video. He wears the wrong shorts at practice. You have the video. What's your reaction to that whole story?
I guess I was a little surprised when I was filming it. I didn't think like, here's something that's going to get watched a million times, but anytime a coach is yelling at a player, that's very interesting. And I didn't know why he was yelling at him. And then to figure out it was because of shorts is so interesting. Like, Kyle got really mad about a dress code thing and Brandon like purposely broke the rule. Like, what is going on between those two? I think some people might've gotten upset about it, but I found it highly amusing. And then Brandon came around, like turned around and wore different socks on game day. It's like, he really wants to be a little different. Well, God love you.
I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I have to say, when he changed the shorts and he kind of like flipped off the shoes and threw the gloves down, that is exactly what my 4-year-old daughter does when she is forced to do something she doesn't want to do. Like, that was because I was watching the video and I saw that people were talking about temper tantrums, and I was like, I don't really see a temper tantrum. And then he did that. I was like, oh, there it is. That is for sure. And I was trying to think about this logically because, like, he has to know he wasn't going to get away with it. So what if he accidentally wore the wrong shorts and then Kyle came up to him and was like, dude, you're in the wrong shorts. And BA was like, yeah, I know, but come on, don't make me change. And Kyle was like, no, go change. And then BA got mad about it because otherwise I can't think of a reason why he would wear different color shorts.
It seems to me that he wants to set himself apart from the team a little bit. Teams wearing black shorts, he's wearing red. Teams wearing red socks, he's wearing white. Who knows why that means something to him? I have no idea what his dynamic is with the rest of the team, but it seems like he's not quite as integrated into the core fabric of the team as the captains. He's not a captain. He seems like a little bit of an outsider.
He does,
as much as a core player could be.
He does wear different socks to different games in his career. I don't know.
Maybe I'm wrong. But he was a guy talking about he wanted to play with Washington and Pittsburgh, and he loves Jaden Daniels. It just seems like most players don't talk that way because they have their own teammates they're loyal to.
If you're watching the stream right now, I tweeted it out last night. He I don't know why he switches it up, frankly. It seems weird. One game in the NFC Championship game, he had all white socks. I'm
glad you did this research. Thank you so much.
All red socks against the Rams, and then against the Patriots, he had the red and the white. I would feel like just the one color would be more comfortable, but who knows? I've never worn an NFL uniform, so what the hell do I know? But
yeah, man, he was all in for the Rams game, and then he didn't get targeted down the stretch, and all of a sudden you got him wearing the wrong shorts, and you better throw him the ball, Brock. You better throw him the ball.
I was surprised. I was not surprised how Kyle handled it. He kind of dismissed it. I think that was probably the right way to go. He could have made a bigger deal out of it, and he didn't, and he handled it the right way, and it's kind of just now gone away. Now we'll see. They're practicing today, so who knows?
Because he doesn't need to make a big deal of it in the press. He already yelled at Brandon Aiyuk in front of the press. I mean, message delivered. Yeah. And then when I asked about it, he smiled. He was like, good question. Like, yeah, you saw it. You saw it. I don't take shit, do I? Sorry.
And then he gave you I didn't realize you got that on video. He was probably not about that, by the way.
But you were glad I did, though, because you came out looking tough.
Well, that's what you should do. Though it's the rule, enforce the rule.
I'm surprised someone like Fred Warner didn't say something like, you fought Brandon Aiyuk in the past. This is a great opportunity to fight him again.
I saw Debo was talking to him, but I don't know if what they were talking about or anything like that. By the way,
you're going to get in trouble. Nah, you're not going to know this.
The second episode of Debo's show came out. I haven't watched it, but I did see a clip. They had Amon-Ra St. Brown on, and they were talking about the NFC Championship game. And basically, Amon-Ra St. Brown said at halftime, he was like, holy crap, we're going to the Super Bowl. And it was like, yep, that's why you didn't.
That's why you didn't. You weren't ready.
Maybe the Niners tied that game up before the fourth quarter. That's how fast that comeback happened. I rewatched the highlights today just to make myself smile.
Ridiculous. The Niners are lucky that game was played at Levi's. They got to get their stuff together and stop giving away games to NFC teams, because if they got to play in Detroit or Minnesota in the playoffs, I mean, who knows?
Ezio Sanchez correctly points out Jared Goff has caught more touchdowns than Brandon Aiyuk this year.
Ben Johnson's looking. What do you think of Ben Johnson this season?
I think good back was the biggest move of the offseason for the Lions, because I have serious questions about Dan Campbell and Jared Goff without him. Him coming back makes them a Super Bowl contender. He's killing.
It's like having another head coach on their team, like the most desirable head coach, desired. If anything happens with Kyle and it doesn't work out and the Niners want to move on, that's the one. Ben Johnson. I like him. I mean, look what he's doing with nothing against Jared Goff, but
something
limitations there. There's some limitations there. And I feel like they've gotten the most out of him that anyone possibly could. It'd be kind of cool to see what Ben Johnson could do with Brock if Kyle isn't the one. And he could win the Super Bowl this year, and I'm open-minded.
He's going to have it. Ben Johnson is going to have his choice of, I mean, Jacksonville could open up like in 2 weeks. That Doug Peters
that job. I don't want that job. Trevor Lawrence is a coach killer. He's not as good as people think. He'll get you fired. No, thank you.
That's going to be a possibility. The Jets could be a possibility if Robert Saleh gets fired. I don't think Mike McDaniel's on the hot seat in Miami.
But he should be. His quarterback got hurt, and it's not necessarily McDaniel's fault that he got hurt. I think he did everything in his power to protect him.
I don't know. I'm just saying, when Kyle Shanahan lost 2 of his quarterbacks, he ended the regular season on a 10-game winning streak and had Brock Purdy.
Yeah, but that's just because he happened to have his best quarterback third in the depth chart on purpose, according to him.
I think you're selling Kyle a little short there. What he did that year, he should have been the coach of the year. That was absurd that he wasn't the coach of the year. But Brian Daboll won 9 games, so we give it to him.
I disagree. I think the year that Kyle should have been coach of the year was 19. Who was it? Harbaugh that year?
That sounds right.
19. I'm like, he went 13-3 with Jimmy Garoppolo. In retrospect, highly impressive.
Yeah, it was
highly impressive.
John Harbaugh got it that year.
Yeah, I think that if you could, to me, that would have been the Kyle year, 19.
How about both? I would have given it to him for both years. How about
I mean,
that?
he started Trey Lance and got him hurt. I don't know. I think the trade for Christian McCaffrey, you could argue John Lynch should be the executive of the year for that, but I don't know. I think, I don't know about 2022. I don't know.
Kyle Shanahan.
Who ended up winning that year? Dayball? It shouldn't have been Dayball. So was Kyle number 2?
I don't know if they do that, if they actually list the
Interesting to know, because Dayball in retrospect was ridiculous. What a ridiculous winner.
Kyle ended the year on a 10-game win streak. Brian Daboll won 9 games the whole season.
Yeah.
What?
Good point. I don't. So I'm saying no Kyle for 2022, but I don't know who should have gotten it. I can't even think back to that season. Andy Reid? How about Andy Reid?
I don't know.
Can we say that? I don't know.
I don't know if Andy Reid has that many. It's a regular season award, though, not a playoff award, so that doesn't factor into it. All right, last super chat before we go. Ezio says, fun exercise. If we get a 2022 redraft, would Purdy go from being the last pick to the number 1 overall pick? Pickett was the first quarterback drafted at number 20. I got to look at the NFL draft in 2022.
Who was the number 1 pick in 2022?
Trayvon Walker, then Aiden Hutchinson was 2. Derek Stingley Jr. 3. Sauce Gardner. Kayvon Thibodeau was 5. Garrett Wilson.
Drake London, Garrett Wilson. Yeah. I mean, really, if they would do it over again, it would be like Aiden Hutchinson, Brock Purdy, and Kyle Hamilton, Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley.
Sauce would be up there.
Those 5.
He would be top 5 for sure.
He'd be top 5. He might be number 1. It might be Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson is quite good, but he's not a quarterback.
Love that dude.
Point.
He's a good dude.
What an all-time great draft pick, Brock Purdy.
Yeah, last pick in the draft.
Great. Yeah.
Thank God. That's all I'll say. Okay. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. Please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network wherever you get your audio pods. Like and subscribe to the Gold Standard YouTube channel and to Grant's YouTube channel as well. Grant, what do you have coming up on the channel?
I'm gonna be here during the day. I'll be posting clips from practice and from can I tell you guys something really funny? It's really funny. Okay, so you post stuff from the facility. I'm gonna whisper so they don't hear, okay? Post stuff from the facility where there's press conferences or stuff from practice, and usually you can post as much as you want. Like, Larry and David, they be posting hours of footage, not hours, but a lot of footage, practice all over. If you post something that they didn't want out there, all of a sudden they can enforce the 90-second rule. This is something. So what happened with the Brandon Aiyuk thing? I got a call like 15 minutes after it happened. You got to take that down. Oh, really? Why? Oh, league policy. Oh, what's the policy? Oh, 90-second rule. So the 90-second rule is technically we're only allowed to post 90 seconds of footage total, press conference, practice, a day, and it cannot be archived for more than 24 hours. And they don't enforce the rule unless something happens that they don't want out there. So I got 90-second ruled the other day. We'll see if it happens again today.
So did you have to pull all the Aiyuk stuff down?
It's down. It is no longer on my YouTube or my Twitter. Now, it exists in perpetuity on the internet, but technically it is no longer on any of my socials because that's the freaking rule. And if I were to disobey it, they would take my credential forever, and I'm not stupid.
So they could tell you to pull down this show.
Technically.
Could they tell me to pull it down? Probably not.
No,
right?
Absolutely not.
I'm not in the facility.
No. Like, for example, I posted that thing for Aiyuk. It was about 2.5 minutes. Jesse Naylor took the thing, put it on his video YouTube channel. Smart. Got like a lot of views. I mean, maybe 50,000 views. I can only post 90 seconds. And
that is wild.
I can only post 90 seconds, and then I had to take it down. So it was actually a service for other people to eat off of that. So, but it's funny how the NFL cracks down. There's a rule for everything.
Yeah, I would have been tempted in that moment to be like, hey, what about X, Y, and Z? They're posting way more than 90 seconds. Do they have to take it down? But you probably didn't do that because you didn't want to start a thing. And you just,
like, whatever. I'll just post in 90 seconds. Fine. But that's what the kind of stuff you got to deal with. Yeah. And that's why I worked up. This feels like state media, and you got to push back to a degree. And someone that leans in, it's like, everything is great, and let me just help. It's like, man, you work for Darth Vader. You want to be on the other side. The resistance. Come on,
work for the Empire. Nicely
you don't want to do that. No.
Well, I hope that doesn't become an issue for you moving forward. But thank you, Grant. Appreciate the time. Thanks again to BetUS for sponsoring this video. Once again, if you want to sign up for BetUS, use promo code YouTube150. Take advantage of the offer. 150% on your first deposit, 125% on your second and third deposit, up to $2,000. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody. We'll talk to you.